Welcome back to another tier list. Today we have backhands on the ATP Tour. Active players only. C tier is average. Anything above is better than average. D tier is below average. We have Evo Karlovic in the D tier. He is a stalwart on the backhand D tier level. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. He's never hit a topspin shot off the backhand wing in his life. We also have RBA in the B tier. He's just that classic above average grinder player. And then finally, to set the S tier, we have Novak Djokovic. We've got a lot of players, so it's nice to set a baseline. But to get started, we're going to start with Carlos Alcaraz. He is the unbelievable 18-year-old from España. He is just absolutely deadly off his forehand wing. Everybody knows that. But what they may not know is his backhand is actually super solid as well. He's unbelievably deadly with it. I've only ever seen him struggle against like really big hitters like Rafael Nadal, where he got that big topspin shot and just made him a little bit uncomfortable up high. But overall, I think his backhand is unbelievable. I'd say like B+, maybe A tier.
I think B+ for now. A tier down the line for sure. He's got a great change of direction up the line, and his cross court is super reliable. All right, so next up we have the man who plays for money and glory, Sasha Bublik.
The boob.
His backhand is not what he uses to win his points, but it doesn't seem to lose him a lot of points, to be honest. So to me, it's C tier.
I think that's a pretty good baseline C tier. I mean, he uses it as sort of a placeholder to get him into position to hit a forehand.
I don't see it as being a huge weakness, honestly.
It's just a very average pluggy shot.
It is what it is.
And then he gets on to what he needs to do, and he rolls on.
Easy peasy.
And we're going to roll on to Gregor Dimitrov, the lady man, the absolute killer on the court. Of course, we need to talk about, once again, remind you, this is based 50% on aesthetics, 50% on effectiveness. So one-handers just get this huge boost, but Gregor Dimitrov, one of the best looking backhands.
All one-handers, except for Karlovic, are B-tier players.
Absolutely.
It's just a fact.
Absolutely, but Dimitrov has a great backhand. It's very effective defensively.
Borderline better than his forehand.
It's got a great slice defensively. He's got great top spin. I think the flair is there. I think this is an easy B+ lock-in.
Excellent. All right, so next up we've got Felix Auger-Aliassime once again. He's got that really big forehand weapon, but behind that weapon is a really solid backhand, something that he says he's actually put in a lot of work. He's got tons of great passing shot highlights, both cross-court and down the line. Lately, his strat has been cross-court backhand-to-backhand rallies. That's how he beat Murray, and Murray is one of the best backhands, so this has got to be at least a B to me.
Absolutely. I'd put a B+ to A tier. I mean, his aesthetic is amazing. His technique is
two-hander,
outstanding.
it is really nice.
It's very powerful and clean looking. The mechanics are pure. And effectiveness-wise, like you were saying, I think it's more effective than his forehand. Maybe not the potent weapon that the forehand can be, but because he can be shaky in those tough moments, I think his backhand is much more dependable when he needs it to be. I think this is a B+, bordering on A tier kind of backhand. He just needs to start putting in those results and winning those tournaments.
I'll give him B+ because he's beaten RBA twice in a row. Big wins. All right, so Raji. Roger Federer, many would say most beautiful backhand of all time. For a one-hander, it is amazing. In 2017, he started taking it so aggressively, but I don't think it's S tier. Yeah, he's got so many slams, and he's won so many points, but I would argue there are so many points that he's lost because of his backhand. To me, it's A+.
I completely agree. I just want to say, like, it is a very effective shot. It's not anything less than elite. But how can you put something in S tier when it's what everybody's hitting to avoid all your other weapons? It just can't be that S tier shot that everybody's saying it is. It is an A++ tier. But the rest of his game is all S tier. You can't have everything. And the backhand does not get the S tier for us. Moving on, we have Hubie. And I think that this is actually, you know, we sort of disrespected him on the forehand. Hubie is one of those guys who's sort of greater than the sum of his parts.
Big time.
But his backhand is
really nice.
It's a really solid shot. It looks good for a two-hander. It's consistent. It's got good pace, good direction, good defensive abilities. I think this is a B plus kind of thing, but it's nothing crazy.
I'll put him in B. I think it's not going to be that one shot that wins the point in most cases. It's the way that Hubie sets up his shot and builds that point. For me, most of his game is just B tier, but it's that mindset and that point construction that's like almost A plus, honestly. So next up, we've got Nicky Boy, Kyrgios. He's actually been trying really hard because he has a new girlfriend. If you're on Instagram, do not look at his stories. He is such a simp for her. It's gross. But his backhand, I really like his backhand. I think it contrasts so beautifully to his forehand. You get these big, loopy, hard shots, then suddenly a no-pace pancake off the backhand. Really effective, not great looking. I think I would put it in B because I think Kyrgios would probably win more matches with RBA's backhand.
That's the thing. I think it's a great shot for him, and it suits his game really well. It lets him kind of move the ball around really solidly. You know, it keeps him in the points, but it's not the weapon that wins him most of his rallies. It's going to be his serve, it's going to be his forehand, it's going to be his volleys, those kinds of things. His backhand just is not that consistent point winning or even digging himself out of points that he's deep in a rally into. It's just not going to be that kind of tool. I think this is a B, maybe C tier for me, but I think B is acceptable. We'll move on to Gail Morphy, La Morph, one of the best players in my childhood. He really is. I mean, he's
inspired a generation.
Absolutely. I mean, he's one of the most characterful players. He's one of the funnest guys to watch on tour. You never know what you're going to get, except for the fact that you know you're going to get something fun with Gail. I think his backhand is really, really solid. I think it's got to be a B plus, kind of A tier. His athleticism, his pace he can put on the ball. The only problem is a lot of the time he just doesn't care that much, but he's got flash. He's got everything. I think aesthetically, it's a great shot. Effectiveness, it's a great shot. This is a B plus for me all day.
I agree. B plus all day. This guy is like the opposite of Hubie Hurkacz, where the sum of his game
is less than his
much
parts.
less than what it ends up being. All right, so next up we've got Andy Murray. To me, this is an easy S tier. Like, it is one of the best backhands we have ever seen. Off the return, it is almost unmatched, except for one man. I'd argue best backhand lob we've ever seen. Passing shots are also unreal. He's got every single angle. And when he added that slice to his game, it just added such another level of variety that not even Djokovic has.
What you may not know is after the forehand video that we made, I actually beat Beckett up for his opinion on his forehand. So he's actually corrected here and put him in S tier. Andy Murray deserves it. I'm not going to argue with it. We're going to move on to Rafael Nadal, another legend of the game. I don't think his backhand takes S tier for me. Aesthetically, it's not the most pleasing shot in the world. His grunt with it is pretty legendary. But for me, it's got great effectiveness, but aesthetically it just doesn't make it. I think this is an A, kind of A plus tier shot.
I do think A plus is correct. It's not the shot that he uses to win a lot of his points. I think he can still hit every shot. His backhand slice is definitely underrated. Not as good as Fez.
His backhand slice is actually unreal.
Yeah, his backhand slice is really good. Not as good as his, I would say, Rafael Nadal A plus. And he's like the defensive backhand counterpart of Roger's aggressive backhand.
This is the thing. We're talking about guys with almost no chinks in their armor, and we're having to criticize them, right? So it's not like he's got a bad backhand. He's at the very top of the spear.
These S-tier backhands to demote them.
Exactly. You have to use them, against who they're playing with. And I just don't think it's up there with that Murray, Djokovic kind of backhand.
No.
Especially with his aesthetic.
Okay, so next up we've got Shapo, and I want to put Shapo in minimum B plus, but almost A because of his jumping backhand, to be honest. It is one of the coolest shots. He's like one of the only guys who does it a lot. Got tons of highlights. And one of my favorite shots he's ever hit is like this reverse, like flying eagle topspin backhand passing shot, which was epic.
You already know how we feel about Shapo. He is one of the most frustrating players to watch on tour.
You've reminded me.
But his backhand does have so much flash that I think you have to give him a ladder. I think we'll put him in the B plus tier. Let's split the difference. I think it's more of like a B tier because he just misses so many shots.
Okay, well, is he better or worse than Gregor?
I think Gregor is more consistently beautiful and more consistently effective, but Shapo has the higher highs. So I think it's like an even out.
Balance.
It's like an even out.
Okay.
I think this is fine as like a B tier kind of thing. Absolutely. And moving on, we have Diego Shortman. And I think this is another classic case of that B tier. He is above average. He will make you work for your shots when you're playing backhand to backhand points. He can hit it deep. He can hit it hard. He can hit it with direction. He can use a drop shot on his backhand. And I think this is a really nice shot. I think this is a B tier kind of shot.
I agree. He's not doing the damage with his backhand, but if you want to do damage on his court, you got to be able to hit through his backhand, and that is one tough task.
Absolutely.
Not last up. That was a lie. We've got like 10 more. Don't click off. We've got Dominic Tiam. You may have forgotten about him, as I did, because he's injured, and he actually just got COVID right after his first match back at a challenger event where he lost first round. But his backhand is definitely A tier minimum. It's so hard, so much spin. He can hit so many winners all over the court. Decent backhand slice. Like, his backhand slice is definitely better than like Shapo's.
Definitely. Shapo has one of the weaker backhand slices.
It's shocking.
Two-handed or one-handed players
I would take Evo Karlovic's backhand slice over Shapo's slice.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shapo can barely hit a slice, but I think that you're forgetting Tiam. I think Tiam for a long time was the fourth player on the tour. And he was that guy that was always knocking on the door, asking questions whenever he faced the top three. And his backhand was a huge reason why. It was unbelievably steady. He could play it defensively. He could play it offensively. It's a beautiful swing. I think this has got to be up there with Federer and Nadal. It's an absolutely unbelievable swing. And he was a fantastic player when he was at his best. And hopefully he can come back, get over the COVID now, and start winning again and reminding people how good he is. I think this
how strongly do you feel A plus here?
I'll accept an A, but I think this is an A plus, and I think that once he starts playing again, we're going to have to move him up. This will be a fluid kind of operation. And
if he wins one more slam, we'll reshoot this, and I'll put him up to A plus.
Perfect.
Okay, next up we got Tsitsipas. I think this is in the B plus. One-hander, looks really nice, really steady on the top spin, tough to break through, can do damage with it both up the line and cross court, but there are times where it's not as heavy as like Dominic Tiam's is, and I think if he added that slice variation, that would be huge for his game. That might boost up the level, but as it stands, it's just not there.
Yeah, this is another guy who struggles with his slice, even though he's got a one-handed backhand like Shapo. I don't know where that comes from, whether they just didn't practice it growing up because they like to hit it big, but it is kind of frustrating to watch because Stefanos is an amazing competitor. You can tell that because he cheats at almost every opportunity he gets. But I actually love that about him.
He will not lose.
This is a game that you're playing for millions of dollars, and if he can stretch the rules and not get in trouble for it, except for a couple fans who don't like him as much, who don't pay his bills, I think that's great. He's going to win all that money and laugh his way to the bank. He's, I think, a great player. I love watching him play, but I think he polishes up that backhand slice, gets it more defensively sound, and he's going to be an A tier, A plus tier as he moves forward for sure. I hate seeing him next to Shapo because I don't understand that, but it does make sense now that we've talked about it.
My hot take about these two having crap slices, Shapo and Tsitsipas, is because they grew up watching Federer hit these weak chips to Nadal for 10 years.
And they just thought it was useless.
Like, no, not doing that. All right.
Moving on to Zverev. Alex Sasha Zverev, once again, we know where he'd put himself.
We all know he's a backhand specialist on and off the court.
This is one of those shots where it should be S tier. But it's not because of how poorly he plays when the time's right, and just the issues he seems to have when the going gets hard. But it is, without a doubt, one of the most spectacular backhands we've ever seen on tour. It has insane pace. It has insane aesthetic, in my opinion.
And a sick grunt.
And a sick grunt to go with it. It's
it's like it hurts him to hit it so well.
We're going to get an NSFW for that one. But no, it is truly an unbelievable shot. And I think A+ is high, just considering for me what he's done with it. But it makes sense because of how spectacular it is.
Yeah, like I would rather have Sasha's than Domi's.
Me too. I'd rather have Sasha's than Nadal's. I'd rather have Sasha's than Federer's.
Yeah, me too. But he just hasn't done it.
Yeah.
He just sucks, whatever. All right, so Benoit Pair. This is S tier because the rest of his game is so bad. This man runs around his forehand
to hit a backhand.
Like 3 meters around his forehand to hit his backhand. Who else does that?
Nobody. It's legendary.
Yeah.
It's legendary. And he's got a great style with it, you know. It's just kind of...
It's his own thing, and it's cool.
Absolutely. Easy S tier, I think. The easiest S tier on here. Especially when you're looking at like a Murray Djokovic kind of thing. Very comparable.
All right, so 10 years ago, this backhand may have been considered S tier. It's Richard Gasquet. He's now a scraggly old man with hardly any titles to his name. But his backhand is still sick. To me, A tier.
A tier, I don't even know that we need to mention that. That's a lock. It's just A tier all day. I don't think it gets the A+ because of the recent results, but
not even recent results, career results.
Well, career results, but it is maybe the most beautiful.
But he's
backhand.
one of the guys. He's good for 100-mile-an-hour backhands all day, every day, even though he looks like 45 on his third divorce.
We'll move on to Kai Nishikori. This guy has one of the best backhands. You know, he is very, very solid, above average, aesthetically great looking, and very effective shot. I think this is an A tier for me.
I agree. I don't think it can be quite A+, given the results, although he's definitely held back by a slow serve and still developing net game. I love Nishikori as one of the few Asian players. He was always an inspiration to me, so glad to have him at A tier.
Next up, we have... Who is that?
It's the farm boy.
Oh, it's the...
It's Jannik Sinner. Jannik Sinner, to me, his backhand is definitely better than his forehand. It's nice and compact, but generates insane power. He's so good with using his legs and stepping in it. Actually reminds me a lot of like the Zverev backhand, where he can do a lot with it just with pure length. To me, it's not quite A tier. Like if I look at who's in the A tier and then who's in the B+ tier, I don't think he's quite made that step, but I can see him definitely making that step as his career progressed, because he only has one thing on the brain: victory.
Winning. Absolutely. I think I'd put him A tier personally. I think it's really effective watching him bully Kyrgios on the backhand side in his last match at the Miami Open before he had to withdraw due to his foot injury. Ugh. But I think it's a really solid shot, and he looks so much more mean when he hits his backhand. He looks really confident, and he just wants to kill you on the other side of the court.
He uses all 110 pounds to smoke that.
Absolutely. I think this is an A tier for me, but we'll leave him in B+, and we'll move on to Stan Wawrinka.
Man. This has got to be S tier. So we all know, here's my logic, we all know Djokovic's game is S tier almost all around post 2011. Stan Wawrinka has used one shot to dismantle Djokovic's entire game and ruin his career, stealing 2 slams from the number 1 at the time and current number 1.
Yeah, but the thing is can you base it? And I love Stan Wawrinka. Can you base an S tier off of 2 victories over Novak Djokovic? And the answer is yes,
absolutely.
Because of how unbelievable it was. Stan Wawrinka is the biggest question mark in tennis because he sort of was a middling character for most of his career, except for these spots where he just became absolutely undefeatable. He was this animal on the court, and I still remember watching the first time he beat Djokovic in a major, just with my jaw on the floor. I couldn't understand what I was seeing.
If you go back and watch those highlights, you know the backhand winner is coming, and your jaw is still on the floor.
It's unbelievable what he's done with it. Those highlights will never die. Stan Wawrinka for S tier all day. And we'll move on to last but not least, this time it's true, it's Steve Johnson with a legendary backhand again for similar reasons of Evo Karlovic. I think this is a D tier all day, bringing up the rear, Stevie, but we still love you. I love watching Steve.
2 topspin backhands. Neither went over the net. But his slice is actually sick. He uses his slice as well as anyone. He's just a college NCAA hero. You gotta love Stevie. He's such a good guy.
Great mustache, too.
Great mustache. One of the few guys who really looks sick in a mustache.
Absolutely. He looks like a true blue-blooded American, and we're here for it. Stevie, we support you all the way, but you know where you belong on the backhand side.
Yeah. All right, so let us know who we forgot and who you demand we include in the part 2 of the backhands. Obviously, we're not going to make one 40 to 50 minute long video because you guys don't watch the whole thing. If you actually watched the entire forehand video, we might have done it, but you didn't. So your own fault. Leave a like for the value we've added to your day.
It's always good when you antagonize your viewer base. Yes.
Whoever posts the meanest comment gets pinned.
Perfect. Bye.